What's going on, guys, and welcome to Who to Sign For. Now in this series I'm giving you my recommendations on what players to sign for a specific team in career mode. Before we go on, I will say that the signings you'll see aren't designed to be realistic, and that the player ratings and potentials of the players may vary depending on what database you're using and how they perform for you during the season. Obviously, you don't have to follow all the tips. This is really just a set of guidelines to give you a hand if you're stuck for ideas and want some suggestions on what players you can sign for a certain club. This is mainly aimed at those you out there who may be new to the game. I just need a little bit of advice, or for those you out there who want a few recommendations on what players to sign for a team that you may be using in career mode this year. And in today's episode of Who to Sign For, guys, just had to do it after last night. Yes, congratulations to AC Milan, their first Serie A title in over a decade. And as soon as I saw the score and the full-time result, I knew what episode I was going to do today. So yes, AC Milan, now the holders of the Serie A. They are a 4-star team in the game with quite a small budget. For a club of AC Milan stats, you think they'd have a bigger budget than this, but they don't. Their starting budget is around 37 million. And for a European giant, that's not the biggest. And their objectives are really tough as well. Win the Serie A like they've just done in real life, reach the final of the Coppa Italia, and reach the semis of the Champions League as well. This year, they finished in 4th place in their group. So there's no doubt about it. This is a very big challenge with AC Milan because it's a 4.5-star team. There are some really good youngsters in the team. Rafael Leao, who was named MVP of the Serie A yesterday. Of course, my favourite left back in the game, Theo Hernandez. He's unbelievable. The young French shot stopper they brought in to replace Gigi. That's Mike now in between the sticks. It's a team with some decent young talent. Oh, how could I forget Fikayo Tomori, of course. It's a team with some decent young talent, but you also notice as well, it's got some aging players here as well. Simon Kjær, now in his mid-30s, the Danish centre-half, and of course one of the oldest players in the game. Could you call him a football legend? Well, certainly in a modern era, Zlatan Ibrahimovic up top as well. It does have some good young talent. It's got some aging players. It's got some deadwood. Really, this AC Milan side is just a mix of everything, to be totally honest. Now, as you'll see, there are a few players that deals come the end of the year, and I give contracts to 2 of them. Zlatan, at 39, turning 40 during the season, is almost definitely going to retire at the end of the season. If he's not going to, you can keep him for sentimental reasons or let him go on a free. In this safe, he's going to retire. But the 2 players I give contracts to are one player who's already decided he's going to leave and join Barcelona on a free in the summer. That is Frank Kessie. Obviously scored last night against Sassuolo. I would give him a new deal though. He's not going to leave in the game, so it's up to you what you want to do. You can either let him go on a free transfer, cash in the summer window, or give him a contract extension. I personally would give him a new deal. And also Alessio Romagnoli as well. Now Romagnoli now is in his mid-20s. He's not going to get much better than he currently is at 81 overall, but as a squad centre-half, a third choice, you're probably going to sell Simon Kjær in the first season. Now he's in his mid-30s and going to decline straight away. I'll keep him as a backup centre-half because 81 overall is still a very decent starting overall for a top European league. So in terms of sales with AC Milan, you would have seen the players put on the transfer list there. The 2 players that deals are coming the end of the year that aren't Kessie and Romagnoli, but also some of the aging players and deadwood players, if you will. Olivier Giroud was one of those strikers. We sold him to Aston Villa, Steven Gerrard's side, for 14.75 million. And we also sold Simon Kjær to Sevilla as well. Again, he's 32 years old, and 83 overall makes him one of the highest rated centre-backs in the Serie A. But again, because he's now 32 years old, he'll turn 33 during the season, the likelihood is he's going to decline pretty quickly. So my advice with Romagnoli being several years younger and only 2 ratings lower is keep Romagnoli and sell Kjær. Yes, Kjær is higher rated now, but come the end of the season, he'll probably be lower rated. So personally, I would sell him. We negotiated a deal here with the Spanish side, Sevilla, for I think it was £29 million. Yeah, £29 million. So that's not a bad sale there at all. So yeah, it's one of those moments where it's like you're selling a higher rated player and it seems to make little sense when you're looking for instant success. But again, you got to think about how the season is going to pan out. You know, Kjær is going to get worse. Romagnoli might not get better, but he won't get worse for several years now. So personally, I think it's better keeping Alessio and letting Kjær go back to Sevilla. We sold Samu Castillejo to Frankfurt as well, the Europa League winners. We don't get much money for Castillejo. He's 26 years old, so not too old. What you'll notice is that he's 75 85 overall, so not good enough for your first team. And to be honest here, he's probably not going to get any better, maybe 1 rating at best. So I personally would sell and just get whatever money you can. You won't get much, but a little bit is worth taking. And as for new signings with AC Milan after we sold Kier back to Sevilla, well, they look to strengthen with this AC Milan side. It's a really, really good team. Like I said, 4.5 star. It does have some good young talent as well, but it can improve a little bit. And my recommendation is to look for a player that can fill in behind Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who will most likely still lead your line in Season 1. And the player I'd recommend is a player that can, well, both play up top, on the wing, and in that CAM/CF role, and that is Nicolo, Zaniolo of Jose Mourinho's AS Roma. Now, this guy's a great talent. You can get him for around £50 million, which is a lot of money, and again with AC Milan, because you don't have to start off with a big budget, that's probably going to be the vast majority of your budget once you made a couple of sales. But let me tell you, this guy is definitely worth it, and then some. He's just 22 years old with a starting overall of 80, and he's got 88 potential as well. That's right, grows to a really high overall, and with dynamic potential, no reason he can't hit 90. And we look at his stats here as well. You know, he's got some brilliant creative stats, great dribbler of the ball, very quick as well. And with Nicolo, what I really like is this guy can play really anywhere in the final third, and the choice is yours of what you want to do with Zaniolo. Now, as he's a left-footed player, what you can do in AC Milan's side, playing a 4-2-3-1, is you can have him on the right-hand side as an inside forward with the left foot, and with Rafael Leao on the left, that'll be a deadly inside forward duo for many, many years. If you want, you convert him to striker, and you can have him as the long-term successor of Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Olivier Giroud. Or, if you want, what you can do is play him in that CAM/CF role like I do here, moving Ibra slightly up so I can get rid of the temporary attribute decrease on Nicolo, so he plays in the CF role, and you can convert him to a natural CAM with a position change. So really the choice is yours with Nicolo. Now, I personally would do one or two things. Either I'd have him on the right hand side as an inside forward with that left foot, or I would have him directly through the middle. He's not the strongest, he's not the best in the air, so that's why you might prefer Zlatan if you do like to cross the ball in with your attack-minded wing-backs. But again, the choice is yours with Nicolo, and that's why I really like him. In that final third, he can play wherever you want. The choice is yours. When you sign him, it's up to you. Inside forward on the right with that deadly left foot, right through the middle with the creativity and the dribbling, or even up top as your long-term successor for the Swedish giant. It really is up to you. But wherever you decide to play him, definitely get him, definitely put him in the first team, maximise that potential. He's going to be a star. Now, the second signing I make as new centre-half, we of course sold Simon Kier to Sevilla, so I'd recommend this guy. I recommend him for any Serie A career mode, or any team you're using that's around 4 to 5 star with a limited budget. It's Luis Felipe, one of the best bargain centre-halves you can get in this year's FIFA. The Brazilian-born Italian international. He's really solid, and because his contract's upcoming the end of the year with Lazio, you can get him for under the valuation. You can get him for around 17, 18 million, which is an absolute steal. He's only 24 years old, which means he's got good potential of 84, and he starts off 79 overall right now as well. So you'll look at it and think he's 4 ratings lower than Simon Kier, and yes, that is true, but he's also 9 years younger with a higher potential than Simon Kier starting overall. So no doubt about it, if you're building for the future with this AC Milan side, looking to sell those older players and bring in the younger talents, Felipe replacing Kier makes a lot of sense. 9 years younger, you'll spend less money getting him than you got for Simon Kier. Does that make sense? You'll get more money selling Simon Kier than you would spend buying Luis Felipe. And again, with the 84 potential, with dynamic potential, could get into the mid to high 80s. He's definitely worth picking up, and him being Italian is a nice feel as well. So always look for a new backup striker and a long-term successor for Zlatan. Also, you sold Olivier Giroud to Aston Villa, and you will want someone younger for the future. Now, Rafael Leao can, of course, play up top, but personally, I think on the left-hand side in this Milan 4-2-3-1 is where he's best as an inside forward. Again, Nicolo can now be a striker, but we're going to convert him to CAM in this save. I would look for a new backup striker for the bench. Zlatan still has it at the wily old age of 39, and then during the season turning 40, but he's going to retire at the end of the season. You want someone long-term to replace him. I had a few names on the shortlist, but the player I would recommend, you can get him for an absolute bargain in this year's FIFA career mode, is the Canadian striker currently playing in Ligue 1 for Lille, Jonathan David. I'm sure you've heard about this guy. He's just 21 years old. So he's almost 2 decades older than Zlatan Ibrahimovic. But this guy physically is absolutely fantastic. He's strong. He's a good jumper. He's got pace. He's a great finisher. I mean, there's very little downside to this guy. Great with the ball at his feet. And he's got high work rates with a 5-star weak foot as well. And at just 21 years old, he's got a long way to go in his career, and he can get really good in the future as well. His potential is 85 with dynamic potential. No reason why this guy can't get into the high 80s. As a successor for Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he's about as good as you can get. Really solid striker, and he's only a few ratings lower than Ibra now, so if Zlatan's a bit too tired and you need someone to fill in there, Jonathan David can do that role very easily indeed at 79 overall. Good starting overall, and again, with the potential he's got and the base stats as well, this guy's going to be a complete forward in a few years' time, and he'll be a perfect successor for Zlatan. So the final things I did with AC Milan, with a little bit of money remaining after the season ticket money came in, we signed a new backup goalkeeper for Mike. And obviously Mike's come in for this season. He's helped his side win the Serie A title. You know he's going to be starting goalkeeper for all the years you're at the San Siro, but your other two goalkeepers are both in their mid to late 30s. You'll want someone younger with potential, and I always recommend this guy, Martin van der Voort, the young Belgian who is going to join RB Leipzig in real life in 2024, but now he's still available to get. You can get him for around 2-3 mil. It's an absolute bargain. He won't start in this team. He'll always be on the bench for Mike, but he will be a reliable stand-in, and he's going to grow quietly in the background with potential of 84. And the final two signings I made were young Italian talents. Like I said, AC Milan have some decent youngsters, and they've got some older players as well. It's always nice to bring in some young talent for the future when you are doing a long-term project, and bonus points if they play for the same country as the nationality of your club. The two players I brought in right towards the end were Brian O'Day of Sassuolo, who of course Milan beat last night to win the title. This kid is just 18 years old with a starting overall of 65, but his potential is 81, so grows 16 ratings, and again, he's got some really good dribbling stats to start off with. 75 dribbling, 73 ball control, 75 balance, and 70 agility. For a starting overall, it's just 65. Those are good stats there, to be fair, for an 18-year-old, and they're only going to get better over time. And the other player I brought in was this guy right here. It's Wilfried Gnotto of FC Zurich in Switzerland. This is a really good young long-term striker to buy, and a budget buy, especially for the RTG teams as well. He is 83 for potential, 17 years old, and his starting overall, again, you'll see, is quite low. But in the first season, in the first 2 seasons, even in the first 3 seasons, you won't really play him much. Just like Brian O'Day, he's the sort of guy that just grows very quietly in the background. You know, starting with a saying overall, both teenage talents. You won't use them much in the first few years, but they'll grow quietly in the background and over time become really good squad players for the players you currently have. So with AC Milan, as you'll see, we sold 3 players for 50 and 3/4 million. Those were the 2 aging players, Simon Kjær and Olivier Giroud, and also Samu Castillejo, a squad player with not much ability. And we signed 6 players for close to 100 mil, which were really great young talents. Nicolo, Zaniolo with 88 potential, Jonathan David with 84, Luis Felipe and Van der Voort with 84 as well, and Gnonto with 83 on a day with 81. Sorry, Jonathan David has 85 potential. But it's a great AC Milan side though, again, because there's such a mix of experience, young talent, and players in their prime now as well. It really is a great team to use, and it's a real challenge as well, because in the first season, you've not got a big budget, you got to spend your pennies wisely, and you've got to make sure you don't pay well over the odds for the players you bring in, because you've not got much in your reserve tank, and the objectives are really strong as well. This is a 4.5-star team, lest we forget, and they're asked to reach the semis of the Champions League, win the Serie A, and reach the Coppa Italia final. Tough objectives, 4.5-star team. Could we do it? Well, as you can see, we would head towards the end of the season. There was no European final. I did notice as well there was no cup final in Italy either. And it wasn't a good season, yeah. We were doing okay in the Serie A, to be fair. We ended up in 4th place with 76 points. Only 5 points behind Juve. The problem we had is I was doing a simulation I was running through. I noticed that we drew a ridiculous amount of games. 10 in 38. That's more than 1 in every 4. And we were one of the top scorers and one of the best defensive teams in the league. Being 4th place, that kind of makes sense. But it was the draws that really hampered us in this Serie A season. If we turned half of those those draws into wins, we would have been Serie A champions. But that was the problem. We drew too many games during the simulation, and that's why we did not win the Serie A like in real life. And in the Coppa Italia, I mentioned it, we did not win that either. We made it all the way to the semis, but were knocked out by Roma, Jose Mourinho's side, who lost to the eventual winners, Napoli, who always do so well in my career modes. And as for the Champions League, well, in real life, AC Milan finished rock bottom of their group. In this one, we finished 2 points behind Atletico and finished in third, went into the Europa League, made it through the preliminary round, but were once again knocked out by an Italian side. Napoli beat us in the last 16 of the Europa League. And of course, when you get knocked out of the Champions League and go into the Europa League, you'll get a secondary objective in your European objective tab. And as you'll see, that was to win the cup. So in the end, out of 4, we achieved 0 objectives. Yeah, no doubt about it. My manager rating dropped to a horrendously low 42, and without a shadow of a doubt, as I always say, I don't try and sweep anything under the rug in these saves. I would have been sacked come the end of the season. It's a shame as well, because as you'll notice with the squad, I thought I did a really, really good job. It's just on the pitch, my Milan side did not perform. But I think that's the one thing you need to remember with this Milan side. When you're bringing in those players, you're taking 1 step back for 2 steps forward in the future. We sold Simon Kjaer at 83 overall, and we bought in Luis Felipe. Felipe is 4 ratings lower, but he's 9 years younger with higher potential. In the first season, they're going to be around the same overall, but he's not going to be an improvement just yet. In terms of Jonathan David, he's replacing Olivier Giroud, the French striker. Now, he starts off lower than Olivier Giroud, but he's several years younger and is going to get better in the future as well. So I think that's the one thing you need to remember with AC Milan. You know, this is a 4.5-star team. It's going to take you a while before you can once again compete for the grand prize, the Champions League. There's no reason why you can't win the Serie A in the first season like Milan did in the first year. This year, last night, beating Sassuolo. But it's all about, again, taking 1 step back for 2 steps forward in the future. Milan have quite an ageing side with some of their players here. You know, Zlatan now 40 years old at the end of the year. It is a long-term project, but it is a really fun one as well. And like I said, I personally really like the signings I made. Zaniolo and Jonathan David now right in the first team, 83 overall. Luis Felipe, 81 overall. And then you got the youngsters in the reserves and on the bench with good potential as well. It's a really fun team, and I definitely recommend it. If you're looking for a challenge, a European giant with a small transfer budget by their standards and also tough objectives, look no further than your new Serie A champions, AC Milan. But that will end today's episode of Who to Sign For, guys. Big thank you for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. If you have, please drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you for the next episode of Who to Sign For very soon.